We had an opportunity at one point to go to a pretty big studio up in Dallas and record a couple of our tunes. And when we did, we obviously we were like, which songs do we want to do? We need to take our A game in there. So we chose a couple of different songs. All I Do was actually one of the songs that we decided to take in there and do.
We chose that song, and You Can Never Look Back to record there. And
we recorded that song 3 times. The second time we recorded it, we took it to Dallas to Reel, which was this big state-of-the-art studio.
And they'd done Coca-Cola commercials there. I think ZZ Top had recorded there. So it looked, when we went there, I mean, it looked like Abbey Road. There was a cafeteria in the studio. I mean, a big recording room and a big control room and other little miniature studios within this building. I mean, it was really fascinating for a bunch of high school kids who had never been anywhere near something like that.
Of course, when you're in that element, when you're in a major recording studio in a big city like that, and there's a lot of pressure on the line, there's a lot of money on the line.
It started out as a great day, a great studio trip, but there were a few little things that examples of foreshadowing that it wasn't going to necessarily turn out right.
Back then, we used to play a lot of bars. We used to play a lot of club gigs, and I think we had played a club in Tyler, Shooters, the night before we went to the studio in Dallas. So
yeah, they playing Shooters. I think we were 16, 17 years old. We weren't even old enough to even actually be in those clubs, you know. But I don't even know how we got into those clubs back then.
We had started playing in Shooters, which was a club in Tyler that all the rock bands played. We started playing there and pretty regularly, and a lot of the groups were asking us to open up for them. Well, we had a great opportunity to open up for Conspiracy, which was a big group in Tyler at the time, and we opened up for them for 2 nights. I believe it was a Thursday night and a Friday night. And we knew we had to go to the studio really early on Saturday to record. But we chose to do the gig. So here we are, Friday night, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, playing the show, and then driving home, getting in late, getting about 4 hours of sleep, getting up the next morning, and driving to Dallas to do the studio. So that right there was, showed you that things probably weren't going to turn out well.
I don't know if we just really didn't have it together, but there was a lot of tension in the band. We were all kind of at each other's throats, like, we got to get this right. It was a pretty big deal to make sure that we got the recording correct.
I remember they tore my drums completely up, the engineers in the studio. They took the bass drum cover off and, were adjusted my drums to get the sound that they wanted, and I just let them. These are professionals, and I'm just a 17-year-old kid. Yeah, you guys just make me sound good. And we laid the rhythm track down, and it was really good. Jeff and I and Jeffrey, we were very tight as a rhythm section because we played so much, and we had laid down a really solid rhythm track. And Steve played rhythm too, as well as Jeff. And Steve and Jeff were just like clockwork. Both of them knew exactly what the other was doing. The rhythm track was just solid. And Jeffrey goes in and lays the lead vocals track down, and it was awesome, sounded great. So we were very positive. Then we get to the guitar solo,
and Steve was kind of going through this transition period at the time where he was really trying to play Yngwie Malmsteen, just do a lot of things that he couldn't really do on the guitar.
To get from one level to the next level as a lead guitarist, you're going to go through some bumpy patches where he was trying to play faster and faster and do more intricate and complicated scales and tricks that he had learned and picked up from a variety of players.
And we wanted more like of a melodic, a lot of, just a little slower playing on the solo.
And I think it was an example of eyes being bigger than your stomach type thing. He had all these ideas he wanted to do, and he just not quite put it all together prior to coming to the studio, which is what we always talk about. You got to know what you're going to do before you get there. Don't get there when you're on the clock and try to make up something.
Of course, when you're in that element, when you're in a major recording studio in a big city like that, and there's a lot of pressure on the line, there's a lot of money on the line, there's a lot of pressure on the guys in the band to do well.
And so when you're in a studio that's $100 an hour, it starts getting expensive real quick. And so it was a very tense situation.
I remember Jim and Steve having some heated moments during the solo, but
it got kind of tense there for a while. I think at one point, Jeff Hamm kind of had to calm me down, get between us, and
I think we all tried to bring our A game. I don't know if we actually all brought it, but anyway, we gave it the best attempt. There was a lot of tension going on that day because we wanted it obviously to be the best that it could be.
And it turned out like shit. So, can I say shit? It turned out like doo-doo-doo-doo.
It didn't turn out the way we wanted, and consequently, it cost us some radio airplay. There were some DJs that said, they're not going to play it because of the solo, And it was really sad for Steve, too, because in about a year later, maybe less than a year, Steve was probably the best lead guitar player I knew. I mean, he could play it all. He could play fast, he could play slow, he could play bluesy. I mean, run the scales, any scale you wanted he could do. It was just, when we recorded, he was just in that transition spot where he was trying to do some things he wasn't capable of doing. And it wasn't just Steve. I got into it with Jeffrey because Jeffrey and I had always sang together. I always sang backup vocals for him, and we always, when we go to the studio, I would sing backup. I knew how to harmonize. We harmonized together. And when we got there, Jeffrey, I think, had read in a magazine somewhere that some lead vocalist do all the vocals when they go in the studio or something. And he was kind of like, well, I want to do all my own vocals. And I was like, why? I've got parts that I'm singing. And so he and I kind of got into it a little bit about that. So
just really unhappy with the production and the way the song came out.
For us, I mean, at the time we were 16, 17 years old, so this was the pinnacle. This was the height of our achievements that we were going for. So
yeah, it was a very tense situation, and the group almost broke up over it. I mean, it was that I think had it not been for Jeff Hamm and for a gig that Jeff had secured through Winsboro High School. We were scheduled to play the next week down in Winsboro. I think had Jeff not scheduled that and kind of, got in between everybody and tried to mend some fences, the group probably would have ended that day because of that experience.
Baby, come on, just listen to me one time.